Welcome back. Before we went to break, Jason was telling us about his experiences at the Oddfellows Lodge, and I wanted to ask you a question in particular about the EVP that you caught. We had touched on this a couple episodes, specifically in regards to the shadow figure that we saw in my apartment. Do you think that it could have possibly been some sort of time slip anomaly that was recorded on EVP of something that happened in the past or the future that you recorded?
This is where I'm going to go back to something that would frustrate Josh a lot.
Yeah.
I think it's possible.
Yeah. I think it is too.
I mean, I hold any of that as possible. I don't know what to think about it, to be honest. But, sure, why not? I mean, I think that that's a real phenomenon. So it could be an explanation for it.
Do you think it's a residual, or do you think it was an intelligence, or not sure?
I mean, if I think about it, there's a difference between what I would hope and what could be.
I didn't think about it like that. Yeah.
Would I hope that whatever that spirit is going through that in a conscious way over and over again? No, I don't want that to happen.
Yes. No, I was like, I didn't think about it like that.
That brings up a good point. Was it, if it was residual, then that means that it may have been something that happened during its real life in the past. But if it was an intelligent,
could be going over.
So you could say a residual haunting is a time slip of sorts, repeating itself.
Exactly. But if it was intelligent, could it have been the spirit itself actually going through that, and that chanting in the background was some sort of otherworldly entity affecting that spirit?
Somebody with a
Google
trying to.
Yeah, so it wasn't a girl that had that happen in real life. It was a spirit having that happen to it. I know. You're going to say it's possible.
Somebody went off a deep end, but you know.
No one goes outside the left field.
It's not the deep end. I mean, obviously, in context, it is the deep end. But, I mean, this is the reason why I have the stance that I do nowadays is because you have to go down those paths. Yeah. If you truly want to try to... if your goal is to try to explain to yourself these interactions, and you didn't think about those paths, then you're not really going down to try to explain it to yourself.
Do you think that if you had heard that in real time as like a, what do you call it, disembodied voice, do you think that would have prompted you to call the police?
I mean, probably. We thought about it that morning.
Yeah.
So
just from a recording.
Yeah. I would.
That's what I'm getting at. Like,
I would definitely would have caused people to probably start looking.
Yeah, I think you would have been jumping and looking around. I mean, that would have been my first instinct. Like we talked about in the woods, you hear a baby crying. Would you
run the fucking other way?
And you and I said, absolutely, I would go look.
So
and I know you wouldn't.
Fuck no, I wouldn't.
But you're not a parent. You don't understand.
Okay.
You just
I don't think that has any bearing.
No, I don't think you have that connection.
That's part of it, for sure, but that's not necessarily the only part of it.
No. So you're
saying he's a big plus.
So if you're in the middle of the woods and you hear like miles away from any fucking civilization or anybody, and you hear a kid crying, you're going to be like, I'm going to go check that out.
My first instinct is to go see if I can
But you hear a whistle, and you're going to be like,
Well, it's like that TikTok I sent you from Duck Hunters
Unlimited. You hear a noise and you're going towards it.
No, the whistle is like, okay, who's doing that? I hear a child crying or that's
same pain. Thought. Who's doing that?
No, if my thought is the child's in trouble.
Fucking Baba Yaga.
You hear a female
body
saying help. Someone in there, help. Because that was on that TikTok.
Okay, okay.
I don't know if you watched any of the TikToks.
Is it a young child voice?
It was a female. But the guy described was he was in Florida, and he was hunting hogs. He was up against
Wild
the
hogs.
tree.
Okay,
wild
boar
hogs,
hunting.
boar
Okay.
hunting.
Okay.
And he wasn't getting any activity. So he's got thermal. So he ends up moving further down and opposite of where he is at. And then he hears something coming through. He's like, oh, the hogs are finally coming in. And he says he sees something that looked like,
That's no hog. That's a space station.
looked like a female or a humanoid start walking, and then got down on all fours and went up to the tree and was like smelling it where he was just at.
That's
and
when
then sat down with it like hunched down next to the tree and then said, help, I need help. And it said it was in like a female's voice. He says his truck was that way, so he just went. But
He saw this on thermal.
he saw it on thermal.
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah.
No, that's
like,
a
I mean, that's a
Yeah.
lot of added context.
Yeah, that's
on
a
top of
setup.
just hearing of
Yeah,
like,
that's
Well,
a
what threw,
setup.
what threw me off on that one was it's a podcast by Ducks Unlimited, and they're literally talking like another guy had another similar situation, but I'm like, these are hunters talking
Yeah.
about this like
No,
like,
that's a
Yeah,
setup,
so-
man.
Yeah.
I've hunted. I mean,
Yeah.
hunted my whole life up until my wife says, what are we going to do with that? I go to eat it. And she said, no, we're not. So I knew the hunting days were over with. But no, that's a complete setup. I mean, I'm from the hood. I know a setup when I see one, right?
So would you, if you were in the woods and you different context, all you hear is sound. You hear a female or a man crying out, help, or just crying. Would you go towards it?
Not if it's a man or a female. If it, I think
That's discriminatory.
no. Well, maybe it is. And you know what?
I'm picky about who I'm saving.
But if I feel like it's a helpless child, I think I'd be more intrigued to do it. Absolutely, I can't help that.
But how do you know that it's not
I don't.
baiting you because
I
you
don't.
know that?
I don't. I
I
think
can
also
see
depends-
Dave going, "Hey, what's your name, Bob?" Fuck you, Bob.
Well, at that point, you just go on the adventure, and as long as you don't eat or drink anything, you're probably
You're gonna be okay.
fine.
That's a
Just like the black-eyed children showing up at my house, guys.
That's a good way to get kicked in the face.
Yeah, it'll get you kicked in the face. That's right.
That's something to, you do outdoor craft and all that. What's your take on the cryptids like Bigfoot or
Good.
I
love
think
this.
that
you can outrun Larry?
Well, this could encompass almost all, pretty much all, even like nut and bolt UFOs. I kind of have the feeling, and I kind of look at it as encompassing in Fey folk. The Fey folk stories and the culture of the Fey folk over the history can, in ways, explain the activity you have with all that, including cryptids. I think that it's a very good possibility that a Bigfoot creature
A physical creature.
could be is most likely metaphysical, which would, in my mind, put them in the Fey folk realm.
Now, would you put like elementals and stuff like that in fake
Yes.
books?
Yeah.
I would assume. Right?
Well, we've had the discussion because I think we're trying to put a whole bunch of things in one box, and the reality of it is there's probably a real creature, maybe not many left because of the physical deformities in the feet that have been being picked up. To some of them are Fae or spirit that are interdimensional, can be invisible.
Yeah.
Well, I've heard accounts where people see a UFO land and Bigfoot's walking out of the UFO.
Or you'll see a
was a Wookiee.
glowing anomaly, and then
Yeah.
they'll see that. Or
yeah, which could be a portal.
That's something that lots of people, even in the field, and specifically right now, well, it's died down, but right now with the drone phenomenon and what's going on there, that it always, I mean, there's this isn't anything new, but there's always fighting ideas on what they could be, and they don't want, like, if you think about it, if you think about Bigfoot, just we'll take Bigfoot for example. If you think about the idea of a person is ready to accept that there is up to a 9-foot tall mammalian creature out there in the woods we haven't found, but they are unwilling to accept even the slightest possibility that it could be of another realm, then you're limiting yourself.
Yeah.
Like, how can you or you believe in the possibility of Bigfoot, you may even have seen it, but then you say these people that see UFOs are crazy.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't understand that mindset, and I know why I don't understand that mindset. But that is across the board, and we're all deep in this field and think about things a certain way. When I look at the drone phenomenon and the way people react to it, it's good, but the conversations that are being had by the people outside the field when it comes to drone phenomenon and UFOs are the conversations we had 50 years ago as a community, and it's already been kind of accepted, and a lot of people in the community have moved on to, well, yeah, that's cool, but we have 100 reports of people being abducted.
Or missing.
And those people that are accepting these drones as UFOs say, oh, they'll abduct these people who are crazy. So it's so far behind that I don't think it'll ever be solved, and I don't know. But the idea that one thing is more possible than the other, to me, just that thinking itself is limiting.
Yeah. Well, I'll be honest. People do that because it's limiting. They're okay up to a point, because if they think they cross
Well, it
that,
scares them.
That's
yeah,
it.
Yeah.
they're either crazy or it just shatters everything that they believe in. Like they're okay with a possible 9 to 10 foot tall mammalian that's leaving footprints.
Mm-hmm.
They're okay with that, but the fact that it could be interdimensional. I mean, it can shift. That's where they cross the line. Same with UFOs and religion. There's a lot of implications on that some people their brain can't handle it.
That's right.
So I wanted to
Which
ask,
is a shame, because I think your approach is what you said. Anything, if you're in this realm, there should be a point of anything is plausible or possible.
Yeah.
And I think that's a healthy
that's
way.
the-
That's a healthier way to look
Yeah.
at it. Where I've always been like, nah. I'm pretty sure it's just a big ape out there, a northern great ape running around out there. There's no way it could be.
Until you see the LiDAR.
Elemental and
That
stuff like
LiDAR.
and then when you
That's
start
the-
seeing the others, you'll be like, okay, I'm probably pretty wrong on all of
Yeah,
this.
the LiDAR with the camera at the same time.
gradient of it is, for me, like I said, I believe that anything's possible. The gradient there is the plausibility of it.
yeah,
Do I think that, there's reptilians running the White House? I think it's possible, but I don't think it's as plausible as they're just shitty people.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
So
I mean,
I think that's a healthy outlook
Yeah.
too.
usually the simplest solution.
Yeah, is the right one,
is
right?
the right one.
Occam's razor. So, in your opinion, Jason, as our guest, I don't know why I said that.
It's like, Barry, yes.
Do you think the advancement and integration of artificial intelligence when it comes to pictures, videos, audios, and all that kind of stuff has diminished the credibility of explaining some of this stuff away? I know that's a broad subject, but
I think that, so at the core of it, like the basis of it, the argument against UFOs is, well, everybody has a camera now, so why don't we have all these better pictures of it? The fact is, we do, but people think that it could be manipulated images, which it could be, for sure, but they don't see it as being more evidence or whatever. I don't like that word, but whatever you want to call it. We do have much better video of Bigfoot type creatures out in the woods, but people don't believe it.
yeah.
So, yeah, I think that the acceptance of it, the level of it, probably hasn't changed because now anybody can make something. But those people do a surface level look at it and just dismiss all of it. There's plenty of those videos that when you drill down into it, a person that's experienced can, outside of the field, that's experienced with how to make videos, can look at it and say that it was not made this way. They don't have an explanation for what it is, but it was not made this way. But that person that just dismissed it never hears that.
Yeah, I mean, you could look at the metadata and see if it's been altered in any way or if it's original.
I mean, that's true, but that's not also true. There are other, like the people that really dig down into it, look at the pixels and look at the things around it and how it moves and what's affected and what's changed.
Interesting.
Not the metadata.
Interesting.
The metadata is one way to look at it, but that can be changed.
Yeah, anything can be changed. I think as AI and our computers and they get more and more advanced, it's going to become harder and harder. You know, the older film footage, like look at all the enhancement on the Patterson-Gimli film, because there's so many things that, you know, why would they have made it a female? Why would they?
Yeah.
You know, it has a muscle suit that wasn't developed until late 80s, early 90s. You know, people forget references, like that's 1967. That's also like 67, 68 was the Planet of the Apes. That was the best they could do for a monkey suit. That was a big motion picture, and they do not look anything alike.
No,
And all it was
it's
a mask.
Just a rug.
You know,
Rug
and then
over the
you know,
body, right?
and they've enhanced it. I mean, the problem is as we get further and further along with technology, I have the same issue with spirit boxes and other paranormal. Like I think they're tools, but anything can be manipulated. So it gets harder and harder to be definitive on the proof, I think.
I hate spirit boxes. There's a tool.
no,
They're a tool until you have to review that
I
shit.
regret ever having one. I absolutely regret having one.
They on video. They look amazing.
They do.
God
Yeah.
Almighty, they
Until
are
you
so
fucking use one.
annoying.
You get a migraine. Yeah, you get a migraine from it.
I don't know what your thoughts on, but that's
Well, we can get into that if you want to. I was going to make another point on people's perspective and what they see and what they don't know. So, people don't know what they don't know. The drone thing did kick off a phenomenon of people, not a new phenomenon in itself, of people that had never looked at the moon on a cold night. So there were hundreds of videos on TikTok and other social media platforms that had the halo around the moon that you see on a cold night with moisture in the air, and they had never seen it before. They were blown away. They thought the world was ending. And that's just because they never looked up before.
yeah,
Because they
never
were
paid
looking
attention.
to look at drones,
Oh, sorry.
and they saw the moon with a phenomenon that anybody that
Happens.
looked at the moon a lot or had seen knew what it was. They didn't know what it was. So you don't know what you don't know. And those people, most of them, probably still think it was something crazy because they never saw an explanation for it.
Speaking of which, stories that you guys don't believe me on.
Number 512.
You mind quickly telling them about the story of us driving to a place to skywatch and seeing the shit on the moon? Remember that?
Okay. Yeah, I have two stories about that same
I think it was the same night.
If not the same night, within weeks of each other. So we were So I've found several cemeteries over the years that are out in the middle of nowhere that most people don't go to unless they have somebody there. And most of the time, even then, the people have been dead for 50, 100 years.
Sometimes random girls show
yeah.
up. That's a
that was a whole different thing. But anyways, so it was Larry, Eric, and I, and we were driving down to a cemetery southeast of Emporia. We were on the way down there. Sun was going down, but the moon was already up, and it was light, very lightly cloudy. There were little clouds in the sky, thin strips. And we were looking at the moon, and there were these little dots of something that kind of looked like clouds that were moving and kind of casting a shadow over the moon that were... I mean, I don't think it was cloud.
Well, because we didn't see
it
clouds.
was. Yeah.
I mean...
Not right there around the moon at that time, no. Yeah.
There was a lot of them.
Yeah.
So it was something near the moon enough to put a
Yeah, it was
shadow
like
on it.
something that was going across the moon.
The surface of the moon, yeah.
Yeah.
But there was like 20 or 30 of them. It was a lot.
Great.
And they weren't... So, from
wasn't
what I
like
remember...
going by.
We had the other thing.
They
They
weren't...
were right there.
and they were going across the moon, but like if it had been a cloud, they would have been all going in the same speed, the same pattern.
Direction.
But some of them were moving in different patterns and speeds.
Yeah, and they were casting a shadow of sorts on the moon.
Yeah, it was
That's
weird.
what it looked like.
I don't know how to explain it, but I remember telling you guys about that, and you guys were like...
It wasn't that night the other thing happened. It was a different night close to the same time that you and me and Eric was there, and I'm not sure if Miles was there. We were at the cemetery east of Paola. There's a bigger cemetery out there that used to be near town. The town's completely gone. It's one of the places we go.
I think Miles was with us.
And we were, yeah, he was. So, and we were coming from a different cemetery, and we were driving down the road, and then a couple of the windows started going down on their own.
Oh, yeah.
My windows started coming down, and his windows, not his window, one of the windows in the back started, and I was like, what the fuck are you doing?
I wasn't touching
Because I thought
them.
maybe he was hitting it.
With his elbow or something.
And that was weird. So like they just started doing, and when we got to the cemetery we were going to, we stopped. Everything died.
The whole car.
It was all
died.
locked. We couldn't get out. And the windows had come down before that.
Yeah.
The windows came down on their own, and then just the electricity and everything shut off.
And the doors wouldn't open.
And the doors wouldn't open. Actually, I think
Sound like a
I
bad
was
fuse.
outside the vehicle.
Yeah.
And I had closed my door, and you and Eric were in the car,
He was yelling at me like, what
and
the
then
fuck
that
are you doing?
happened.
Yeah.
Because I was standing right next to the vehicle when that happened.
Yeah.
So all the electronics in the car shut off on you,
Yeah.
and the car
But
went
the
down.
windows came down,
Everything.
What
and
kind of car
everything
was
shut
this, may I
down.
ask?
It was
My
his car,
Toyota
his-
RAV4.
which
The one you
has
have now.
problems.
It has
Yes.
problems, but
Yeah.
not those types of problems.
We haven't had that problem. We haven't had that same thing happen anything but that night.
Well, first of all, never fucking drive with Larry on any kind of because your fucking car, dude.
I feel like we may have heard something too
Well, when
we were driving.
when we were
and the
driving-
window went down.
when we were driving back, we heard something,
So wait a minute,
and the car
you got to start off back up immediately.
and the car went crazy. Remember?
After 90 seconds, couple minutes, he was able to. The cars turned back on. And he was able to get out of the car.
Yeah.
The engine didn't turn back on, but all the
electronics
turned
turned
back
back on.
on.
He was able to get out of the car.
Did you notice any time slip?
Well, because
Lots of
I
time.
had also gotten out, so it was unlocked at the point that I was able to open the door and get
But the
out,
minute you
and
shut-
then everything shut down, and he wasn't able to unlock his door.
Yeah.
Oh shit!
I was kind of freaking out because I was trying to open the door and it wouldn't open. None of the electronics were working. He's like, "Start the car," and I'm like pushing the buttons, doing everything. Nothing was working. Yeah, that was weird. Because that was the same night as we were driving back. Remember, all the electronics freaked out?
Wasn't the same.
That wasn't the same night? Okay.
That was another night south of
So what's the
California.
most probable?
I'm not going to say it was aliens, but it was aliens.
Most probable thing is his car's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Got a
It
bad
does all
view.
kinds of weird
The
things.
computer systems.
It already does all kinds. It makes all kinds of noises since he bought it.
Yeah.
So
Well, now you're T-fobs. It could be just Larry.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, it could be you just interfering with things.
So to close this out,
I actually affect electronics
I think
sometimes.
it could be his own frequency,
blinky
right?
lights.
I mean, I can see it being
I have
frequency. People have their own frequency, right? I mean,
Yeah,
that
no,
does happen, right?
I had a father-in-law that, for whatever reason, he had to use mechanical wind watches. Because if he put a battery-powered watch on, he would have it drained within a day.
Yeah.
And that's just the way it was. Like, he had anything that had a battery on it. If it put near his body, it would just drain that battery.
Oh shit.
And had dealt with that his whole life, like until he died.
Huh.
It was like, that was just the weirdest thing.
There's a lot of people that have that.
Yeah.
You know, they have to. On the extreme end, a lot of people. There's a zone of silence out in Virginia that the government keeps. The military keeps. There's no even radio waves out there. They keep it specifically for testing reasons. There are no frequencies that run through that area, and people have to move there because of things that affect them.
Right. I definitely know frequencies can
Yeah.
mess with people. Well,
Well, when you break it down, they're all frequencies.
Yes.
So,
movement, sound, they're all base of frequency.
yeah.
So to close this episode out, I wanted Jason to recount another skywatching incident that happened to us down in Virgil.
Oh.
That
This has
was
become-
You haven't
let's
told
prove
this one
Para-Chum
on the
is not
show
crazy.
before?
I have, but they don't believe me.
It's not that we don't believe you per se.
You just want
only
another
better
perspective.
When you have a second witness to be able to corroborate a little bit,
That helps.
That helps.
Yeah.
You know, and then
Well,
it's-
this whole field and dealing with people you know in the field and investigating, the people that I know, I trust that they feel they're telling me the truth. But I wasn't there to experience it with them. So
Yeah.
I get the skepticism of even the people close to you because you weren't there to be a part of it.
Yeah, that's fair.
And
Well,
Larry does talk to himself. So
Well, and I've even said the things I've seen, or what. It's still a bullshit story. If I don't have it recorded, if I'm not showing it on video, it's a fucking story.
That's
And I'm
personal
not trying to be rude saying it's bullshit, but it sounds like shit bullshit, you know? So when someone comes out of, not even fucking left field, but out in the fucking parking lot, Larry, I love the shit out of you. You know I do. I think the world of you, except you're kind of fucking nuts. But when you tell stories, and like, you shake your head like, what? He's so, you know.
the things I question most with Larry is what he sees in the dark.
Yeah,
If
he
he
can't
sees
see
something
anything.
in the dark, even if it's half, like, really
He's
low
night
light.
blind.
he
Yeah,
can't
That's
see it.
crazy.
Yeah. No, I would. That's.
Well, I mean, I'm to the
valid.
point now. If Larry says he hears something, I
But
give him more credit.
we've seen recording it from, you know.
Yeah, there's been
video
things
of
backed
that.
up.
But this experience, sky watching, I think, from what I've experienced doing sky watching,
This is
It's
the
the
first
most
time we went
profound.
sky watching, too.
Yeah.
This was the very first time.
yeah, this is a pretty big
All right,
incident.
All right, blow our minds. Let's hear this.
So, I'm not sure if you're familiar with Virgil, Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
You've been down there? It's a really small town south of Burlington, Kansas. Southwest a little bit of Burlington, Kansas. And there's nothing but gravel roads around it. They have a couple street lights and a few houses, and there are a few people that live there. But it was a place on the map for light density, light pollution that was low. And since then, we always kind of go to cemeteries because people won't bother you and people won't run into you.
Yeah.
This time we didn't go to a cemetery because we...
Dirt road.
Well, so this was in the middle of a farm, and it was a dirt road, and it was winter time, and I think it was like 10:30 p.m. when we got out there. About around that time, it was several hours after dark.
Yeah.
We just stopped on the side of the road in a field, and there was corn around, but the corn was gone, of course. But there were cornfields around, and there was a house, I don't know, a quarter of a mile down the road, and it was probably his property. And so we just sat on the side of the road in lawn chairs, watching the sky. It was me, Larry, Brad, and Eric.
Yeah.
And Larry's car was sitting there, and we kind of, when we go sky watch, we kind of all sit in different directions, so we can watch different parts of the sky. And I was facing east, and Larry was facing pretty much east as well, a little bit to the north. And one of the guys that was watching the west, and we were kind of looking up to these 5 lights that they weren't in a pattern of any kind, but they were kind of spaced out, like pretty close to each other, and they were all moving across the sky at the same speed and the same brightness. And then they stopped. Well, 3 of them stopped, 2 of them kept going. And at that same time that they stopped, there was a flash of light from one of them that shot down a cone of light from our perspective that felt like it lit up around us. We actually had the exact same cone of light happen recently at another investigation where a legally blind person saw the flash of light. So it was the same exact thing. It didn't like there was enough light from the ambient light of the sky around us that we could see around us. Mm-hmm. His car's there. We're watching that. The 3 lights stop, and there's a flash of light coming down from one of them.
It's like a beam of light coming.
It was like a camera flash.
It was almost like the light just like flashed and lit up, but we were directly below it, so it was like a cone. Like, it didn't light up the ground around us. It was just like a cone of, like, the source of light was a point, and it was spreading out and coming down, like it reflected in some way or did something. But it was well after the point that the sun reflects off of satellites. Like, that only happens like 2 to 2.5 hours after the sun goes down. But it's hard to explain unless you see it.
Yeah.
But the best way I can explain is it's a cone of light that you can see that's not necessarily lighting everything up. It's just a cone of light. At that moment that happened, Larry jumps up out of his chair, and before he says anything, I see a shadow figure on the other side of Larry's car run out and go towards this tree line. And then Larry says, "I just saw a shadow person standing next to me." I don't know if it was all connected, but it all happened in that moment. And those 2 lights just kept going. And they looked like satellites, but it was well after the point that you should be able to see satellites.
See, when Larry told the story, I asked him if he noticed any time loss.
We weren't paying attention to time.
Yeah.
And the reason why I bring that up is, the story of light in the sky.
You mean fire in the sky?
Or fire in the sky. Because it was a beam of light came down, and he, and multiple people talk about that they have a flash of light, and it's not until quite a bit later that they realize that there's like half an hour missing or whatever.
It didn't seem like any time had disappeared, but if 10 minutes had gone, we wouldn't have known.
Yeah. Well, because then the next thing was like, you could have been sucked up, put back down, and what you realize when you're getting put back down.
Or sucked off.
Yeah.
Well, you would remember.
Well, you would have been
Well, not if they know what you remember.
Yeah, no one. I'm just.
Well, maybe we should all go through hypnotic regression when we do Eric.
He wants to do it.
Well, because you said you've had this happen twice. I mean,
so recently,
and now you've heard people say it's them.
Well, when the legally blind guy is looking down at the ground and goes, "What the fuck was that?"
Yeah,
that's
fair.
That was in a cemetery north, or actually just north northwest of St. Joe Acheson area, in that area, just west of there.
What's your mind tell you what happened? What did it correlate? The shadow people you saw running, was it part of what you were seeing in the sky?
I would say that perchance would be too high to not be correlated.
Okay.
Though we didn't see any shadow figures the second time we saw that light.
No, we didn't.
They learned from their
But
mistakes.
we didn't see a group of lights moving across the sky with the flash of light. We were watching one single light,
Yeah.
and then we had the flash of
So
light.
what was happening? What happened?
Oh, I was like, we're talking on a podcast.
Yeah.
We were really just hanging out that night. We didn't have a whole lot happen except for that light the second night.
So if you could wrap your your word, not mine,
Yeah.
around it, what
They
just
definitely
happened?
didn't have a camera going.
What just happened?
3 possibilities. Saw something that we can't explain that correlated between the 2 shadow figures and the lights in the sky. 2, I don't know.
Could the flash of light scare the shadow beings away?
Was my 3rd, that
Oh,
they didn't correlate, but the flash of sky
was protecting you from the shadow creatures.
Yeah, that
Oh, our saviors.
it's a possibility.
I mean, they technically could have the
Why else would
technology
they
to be
have
able
ran?
to pick up those type of things.
I'm just saying, why else would they have ran? So what? You tell me, Chase. Because I know everything's possible. Everything's probable.
I think that it's more probable they were connected than not connected.
So do you think the flash of light could have been them coming down?
Or them just trying to steal hubcaps and you caught them.
I don't know.
Okay, so what were they doing to you? Well, I mean, what was the reasoning? It happened, so there has to be a reason.
But if we don't know the reason, how can we explain it?
Well, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, why run to
So
what do you
the
think?
other way that I approach the paranormal, it's not the other way, but it's part of how I approach the paranormal, is I don't think we're supposed to know the answers to these things.
That's fair.
I feel personally that we are not supposed to know the answers to these things. That doesn't mean they're not interesting. It doesn't mean we shouldn't strive to interact with it or try to figure it out. But I think there are several reasons that I can think of, one specifically above all the rest, as to why we're not supposed to know these things. And that is, if we as a human population knew that their life continued after death, half the planet would probably off themselves immediately, because they would think it was better than their human existence.
Is that necessarily a bad thing?
All right, Mr. Reptilian over there.
I was just saying.
Well, I can take
He's up there.
Thanos
Thanos.
wasn't wrong.
So, from what you guys described, and
Instead of just-
not that a Para-Chum does not make it real, but listen to you, made it more edgy.
To me, it just gives more
to
credit.
me,
It's like
it's,
anything.
it's kind of
So,
frightening. Kind of a
Not
real
to say
frightening
that
experience.
we don't believe
yeah.
Para-Chum, but we believe you.
We left.
Were you
No,
frightened?
it's when you corroborate multiple
I
people's
didn't feel
stories.
personally. The second time, I didn't, other than wonder of like it happening and wondering what was going on. The first time, we left. We got ready and left, but I didn't necessarily feel threatened by it.
No, the reason I jumped up was I was startled because there was someone like right next to me.
I don't know if I could have slept all night after that. I think that would have kept me up all
Yeah.
if I saw
Larry
that.
fell asleep
and
on the
then
way
I-
home.
and-
Driving.
Jesus Christ.
Driving.
And then I saw something running to hide.
Yeah.
I think,
Would you have chased it?
no!
I mean, we didn't just like jump up, grab everything, throw it in the car. We did shine our flashlights around and we talked about it, and then we left.
What if it had happened and then all of a sudden you heard in the tree line, "Help me"?
Nope, because I know it's a setup. I know it's a setup.
So I have to final thing.
One more thing.
I do
One
have
more.
a tendency to fall asleep.
You
In the
used
car.
to.
No, not as much anymore.
I don't.
You get all the way to Elkhorn and back.
Ow!
But I wasn't driving.
Well, you were drooling.
Yeah.
But you weren't
We
running.
were coming back.
There's a shower.
Countless
There's
a
times
waterfall.
you would fall asleep while driving.
We were coming back
He
one
was
time,
driving.
and
You want me to tell you the story? You want me to tell it? Are you talking about the Nebraska story?
yeah.
Okay, I'll tell this story so everybody knows.
Because you were
Are you
asleep.
talking about Harry Potter?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was a thing. So you could talk to him, but he would be sleeping. I would have to. Most of the time, I would have to take over driving because he would just fall asleep while driving.
Holy snap.
And there were points that.
Just doing it now.
One of the sky watches we did was up in Nebraska, just west of Falls City, and I don't even remember why we drove up there. Probably because I saw on the map there was low light pollution or whatever. So it was you, me, and we almost got stuck on the way up there.
It was Brad.
And
I'm
Brad
sorry.
and Eric again, and we're done. Brad had left his car in St. Joe, so we were driving from Falls City to St. Joe. And we're going down the highway, and we're going like 60 miles an hour. And Brad is back here talking about quantum computing and just all these theoretical stuff with Larry. And I'm sitting in the front seat, Brad's behind me, Eric's over there, probably passed out too. And Larry's just driving. And Brad's talking to him about that. And then all of a sudden Larry goes, "Oh, I was just chasing Harry Potter on a broom for the last few minutes."
I was dead asleep.
He said I was like zooming around and it just happened to be along the road, I guess. And
Makes you feel so wonderful at that
I'm
point.
so
Jason-
glad I drove.
He was
most of the time when he falls asleep, it's on a back road. So yeah, it sucks. But that was still, we were going 60.
He was like, pull over.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's the correct response. Pull it back over.
Now.
No.
Yeah.
I almost caught the son of a bitch.
Yeah, because we were all like, we don't know what you're talking about, bro. Like, we don't, like, and you even said, like, I haven't been listening to you forever. I was chasing Harry Potter on a broom.
I don't remember the quantum physics
Yeah.
conversation at all.
I used to be my parents, like, probably from 10 to 16. My parents used to, like, my dad would travel and all that. Like, he'd open the door and talk to me. I'd have conversations, full conversations, like not just one or two sentences, just conversations, and they leave, and I wake up. He didn't even say bye. Like, no, he literally had a conversation, and my brain would just work. Like if I was asleep, not in the military, it was also because you sleep whenever you can, but if somebody came up and talked to me, I just talk back, not understand. And most of the time, it was almost nonsense. Like I could get one or two sentences that make kind of sense, and if you talk to me too longer, and then that's when my family figured out, like, shake them.
A lot of the times we would go sky watching was to the south, so there were, I would say, majority of the times on I-35 on the way back, his eyes would be closed, and you'd ask him if he was awake. He'd like, "Yeah, I'm awake." That's the time that when I would have him pull over and we'd switch.
That or you'd hear the dun, 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 dun.
Yeah, or he would be snoring. Nope, I'm not snoring.
He does snore and drool.
Yeah,
I
the waterfall does come. It does come.
When you're
like-
wiping your own shirt
Yeah,
off.
he's like, I don't drool. I go, yeah, bro, you do. Look at your shirt. Oh yeah.
He was out. Like, I mean, it was an 8-hour drive, and he was out for like 7 of them.
Yeah, you enjoyed the
Yeah,
drive.
yeah.
Oh yeah, I was really pissed off. I only turned the radio just a little louder.
So thanks for joining us tonight. I know it was kind of a what do we call it, hodgepodge.
Another thing was fantastic.
Yeah.
It was a questioning of the professor here. It was a lot of fun, man. It was a good time.
So that's why'd you say that word?
Professor? I just think with his experience and his knowledge, his way to communicate, and this is not like the first time I've ever met him, but I'm just always enthralled and I listen and I learn.
Do you want to jump in on that one?
What do you mean?
That's what you used to call yourself on the
Josh called me the doctor.
The doctor, okay.
Okay. Well,
Two different things.
I feel like I just feel like I
That's
learned.
a funny story too, because they only called me the doctor because I had a dream where I was playing doctor when I was a little kid. So they called me doctor, and that's how it turned into that.
That's funny. So
Well, my wife's an RN, and there's a reason she calls me that. That's for another podcast.
Yeah.
So, OnlyFans.
But hey, you know what? You expanded my mind a little bit. I'm not so narrow-minded as.
Things are
believe-
possible.
Yeah, I think I'm a little bit more open.
Do you believe me a little bit more when I say things then?
I think when you have someone that collaborates with you, of course, it's more real. Just like my instance
More
with
relevant.
Stanley Hotel, I kept my mouth shut until the two ladies came up and said, "This is what I saw too." So that's why I was like, I'm not saying the damn thing until that happened.
Good point. Yeah. Good point. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you have any paranormal experiences that you've experienced,
Do you want to start that over?
No. That's just Para-Chum.
Yeah,
TNT right
that's
there.
the chumming.
let us know.
The chumming effect.
Make
Yeah.
sure to subscribe, like. No, just subscribe and like.
Holy shit.
I was going to say follow. but
How
that's the
about
same as
thank you,
subscribe.
and we appreciate our guest, the
Yeah,
professor. Man.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you, Jason. It was always a pleasure talking with you.
Absolutely.
Hopefully you
I
enjoyed your time.
appreciate it. I have been told by a lot of people, it makes me feel really good that I have a way of talking about the paranormal
You do.
that comes off as more believable is not the right term. That's mostly people that are outside the field, but I have a way of making it not sound crazy.
That's
I
it.
would
Yeah,
agree with
yeah, I'd agree. It you make it
Relatable.
relatable so somebody, because what the military guy at the brewery,
Yeah.
because we asked him, have you guys have any paranormal experiences, and he's like, no, nothing really, because we're trying to get about the Peace Bay Road. As we start talking about stuff, then he mentions his story of being in Iraq and having a post of, because I mentioned that when I grew up in my house, you could hear people walk up the steps, and that triggered him. And you have a very calming voice, the way you talk. You don't throw a lot of emotion behind it, so it makes it, it's a nice, it's almost like a lecture, almost like a professor,
Like a
would
professor,
explain
yeah.
something just so everybody would understand. So I appreciate it. It's always a pleasure.
When you can talk to three different guys who are on three different levels of absorbing things,
Yeah.
that says something.
Who's
right?
on the low level?
Huh?
Please, and keep
I'm
in
level.
mind-
I'm still on level 1, but I'm working my way
You're,
up.
you're always welcome to come back to bitch
Absolutely.
whatever you got going on
Absolutely.
new, from
Absolutely.
outdoors.
We didn't
to-
even get into it, but I took a long break for the paranormal for a reason. But we can talk about that another time.